Everything that we do, what I'm doing right now, this lecture that I'm giving, it's all just behavior that I've learned. I've learned through contingencies of punishment and reinforcement. Everything that you've learned in school can be explained in terms of behaviorism. Then you might think, well, wait a minute, I've solved problems before, I've thought through things, I've understood difficult issues, in a sense, I've learned things, and it hasn't just been behavior. Well, the behaviorists would disagree with you. They'd say that, no, all you can do is behave. Well, you might be thinking that that doesn't really capture your experiences in the classroom, and hopefully that's the case, that it doesn't capture your experience in the classroom. What I want to talk about today is a different approach, one that suggests that there's more to learning than behavior. Now, behavior is part of it. In fact, a lot of things that we have learned are strictly behavioral. But how about those learnings that go a little bit deeper? So for instance, when you're in first or second grade and learn your addition tables, you might know that 1 plus 1 equals 2 and 2 plus 2 equals 4. That means whenever someone shows you that on a card, you'll say 2 plus 2 or 2 plus sign 2, oh, 4, because you've memorized it. So whenever you see the problem, you know the answer. Well, that's behaviorism. That's operant conditioning, most likely. But how about that one day when a child has 2 cookies and then mom or his friend give him 2 more cookies, and now he has 4 cookies, and he realizes that there were 2 and 2, and that together there are 4, and they're actually there. They're not just these numbers that are connected by symbols. No, he's got 4 things now. Before he had 2, then he was given 2, now he has 4, and he understands the number 4 and the sum of 2 plus 2. The child now understands 2 plus 2. Do you see the difference? Do you recognize this difference? Well, Rogers argues that there can be such thing as personal learning or meaningful learning, and that's what I want to talk about today. For Rogers, meaningful learning has 5 components. I'm just going to go through those 5 and give a couple of examples. The first is meaningful learning has to have personal involvement. Now, this is different from behaviorism, which suggests that you don't have to be involved at all, because you can't be involved. All you do is behave. You're not thinking about behavior, you're not recognizing a problem, you're just behaving. Well, Rogers says that with meaningful learning, you have to participate. That means you have to take your own time, your own investment, your own thoughts that you could be spending elsewhere, and devote it to a problem, devote it to understanding. So it has to be a personal investment. The second is it has to be self-initiated. It can only be self-initiated. Nobody can promise you some sort of reward for doing it. Think about this. I gave the example of you get your smartphone, or your iPhone or smartphone, your tablet, whatever. Very complicated device. Now, how many of you learned about that without even reading an instruction manual? Nobody had to promise you anything for reading about it. You wanted to understand it. You devoted your time, and you did it yourself. No one had to ask you to do it. And if no one could give you extra credit for doing it longer, you spent hours learning about this, I would imagine. So it's self-initiated. No one can promise you anything for doing it. You have to decide to do it yourself. Or the third is that it's pervasive. This is to say that when you really learn something, your life changes. It changes in definite ways. You relate with people differently, maybe. So when you get your smartphone and you learn a couple of the applications, the way that you engage the world, like now you have a calculator and you know how to use it, so you get it out and you can solve difficult math problems without having to think them through or write them out. You can use the search functions. You can look up things in a map. You interact with the world differently once you have this new understanding. All right, the fourth thing, and this is included in all of them, is that it's meaningful. That the sense of understanding that you get and the new ways you interact with your world, they give you a new sense of meaning. That is, no one has to give them a value. So understanding how to use your smartphone is valuable in itself. It itself is meaningful. Again, nobody has to say that, oh, if you can figure that out, I'll give you $100. If someone were to offer you $100, it wouldn't make you work any harder because you want to do it yourself. It's meaningful in itself. That everything else is just extra. It doesn't help or hinder it, it's just extra. All right, and the final thing, only you can evaluate meaningful learning. No one can say, oh, you used a map function to find out how to get to school a quicker way. I don't think you used it correctly. They can't do that. Only you can do that. You learn a map function, you apply it, and you decide, yeah, it was actually easier that time. Therefore, the way that you learned it was better. Or someone might say, for instance, oh, you used it good enough. Well, good enough might not be good enough for you. You might say, okay, that was helpful, but it could be better. So you spend more time, not for extra credit, not for more money, not for anything anybody can give you, but because you have evaluated it to be maybe less than you could get, or less than you should have expected. So you spend more time at it. So again, meaningful learning is personal, self-initiated, pervasive, it's meaningful, and only you can evaluate it. So I want you to think about a time that you actually learned something like this.